Welcome to the Engage podcast. We haven't done one of these on my channel in a while, but I couldn't resist talking about Engage. We'll be talking spoilers later on in the video, so don't worry about that. I'll have them very clearly marked, so you don't have anything to worry about. Now, my co-hosts for today's podcast are the homie Tacho.
Hey man, what's going on?
And the one and only DTM.
Hello everyone, DTM here. Super glad to be here, and yeah, can't wait to talk about Engage.
Same. I feel like it's been like weeks where I've just wanted to talk about this and just had not many people to talk to me about it. So, the first thing I really want to talk about is just like your general feel on the game. Did you guys enjoy the game overall?
I actually really enjoyed it, and it gave me a lot of vibes of Awakening. I remember when I had first played that, because to me, the emblems that they added into this game kind of remind me a lot of the paralogs from Awakening and the DLC and stuff, where they're trying to like give some spotlight to the older characters. So I really enjoyed that much, because for me, what is Fire Emblem without the legacy? If you're not going back to like FE7, FE9, FE10, etc. I really enjoy when the old characters get some shine. So for me, that was pretty big. I really enjoyed the cast in this game too. I thought the newcomers were pretty cool for the most part. I mean, they're very unhinged.
Yeah, cast, definitely.
they're pretty screwy. They're a bunch of screwballs, but it's like in a good way though.
Right.
So I enjoyed that. The story the story I think is where people are definitely divided the most.
Yeah.
Because you're either gonna like it or you're gonna hate it.
Yeah.
And it's very to the point. It's very concise. There's not really too many curveballs in there. It's basically like Fire Emblem the anime. If I had to describe it in one way, that's what I would go with.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because I mean, you start the game up and literally there's an anime intro every time you.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I'll like turn on the game and I'll forget that it's on, and all of a sudden just blast in my ear, and I'm like, okay, yep, there it is. There's the anime opening song for me.
Yeah.
But that is good to hear, and I kind of get what you mean, like, especially because this wasn't like planned for an anniversary game. I'm kind of glad that they brought back everyone in a cool way too, because I feel like in Awakening it was good, but like this is definitely way better. I feel like the emblem rings as a mechanic in the game is really interesting.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, yes, at least for me, like, I really loved Engage, and I really enjoyed it. Like, as Tacho mentioned, the cast, they're all unhinged, but they're all so endearing and amazing. The gameplay, I feel, is by far and above the best gameplay of any Fire Emblem game that I've played. And I do know that, a lot of people are divided on the story, but I personally really liked it a lot. And yeah, overall, it's just a really good Fire Emblem game, and if I would argue probably among my top 3 favorite Fire Emblem games. So yeah, suffice to say, I really love this game, and not only that, obviously really appreciate the emblems. I think they're handled very well and provided a lot of unique gameplay mechanics as well as story integration, and overall, like, I'm very positive on this game.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. Like, I overall just enjoyed the game a ton. Like, there hasn't been a Fire Emblem game where I just really couldn't put it down in a minute. I think Three Houses was kind of like that, but then there was also like the monastery sections that kind of like ruined the tempo of the game. You know what I mean? Kinda
Three Houses. Three Houses was such a pain in the ass to play through, and if you wanted to get the full story, you had to play it like four times to do all the routes.
Right.
Yeah, and you're not allowed to skip the first couple of chapters either. The setup chapters like the early monastery stuff, and then I don't know, that just really took me out of it. I did one route and I was good. That was good enough for me.
I really enjoyed Three Houses, right? Like, I don't want to go too far on Three Houses because we're talking about Engage, but like I enjoyed that game a lot. But like the monastery sections, I felt like kind of like interrupted the gameplay a bit too much at times. And I think Engage actually did a pretty good job with the Somniel, because like you could spend a lot of time there, right? You could just go around and play every single mini game, talk to every single person if you wanted to, but you didn't. I don't know. I didn't really feel a need to. I have heard conflicting talk about that though, so I'd love to hear what your opinion is on this, Tacho, because I know in maddening it felt like maybe you had to do some more of the activities.
Okay, so I did play on maddening on my first run, and I also didn't use any of the DLC or the Fey weapons, so I think I'm one of the few people that did like a raw maddening run for my first play. And I did feel pretty urged to do a lot of the stuff in the Somniel, because any little extra bit you can get helps in maddening. So like the push-ups at the I think it's Alfred. Yeah, so you go over there, you can do like 3 different activities, and pretty much you just want to do push-ups if you're playing maddening, because you get the bonus strength. And that felt damn near at least at the early portions of the game, that felt mandatory. Later on, it tapers off a little, and then magic starts being OP. So you don't need strength as much, but it still helps. Also, eating at the cafeteria felt pretty mandatory.
Right. Yeah.
Well, maybe not mandatory. Mandatory is probably the wrong way to put it, but it certainly helps.
Strongly encouraged.
You can get like +1 to all your stats if you eat the right meal. So that was pretty helpful. The wyvern riding is like the only way you can consistently gain items to sell. So
really?
Really?
Yeah, in maddening, you're pretty hard pressed on everything. So like money, SP, experience, it's all decreased when you're playing on maddening. So every little thing you do helps you out a bit. So for me, what I was doing, I would just play wyvern riding, and you get a lot of bond experience, but you also get a bunch of items too, like elixirs and vulneraries and stuff.
Right. Okay.
And I would just sell all of those, so I had like a little bit of income somewhere.
What about you, DTM? How did you feel about the Somniel?
So I was personally really positive on the Somniel, because I didn't feel it was as necessary as the monastery was in Three Houses. Now, I played on hard, not maddening, but I also didn't have the DLC or really that many online features, so I couldn't like go get like an item from one of those like purple spots or anything like that. And even with all of that, like the only activities I really did consistently were the cafeteria and the arena, and that was basically it. And honestly, I probably would have done the cafeteria anyways, because I wanted to grind up those support ranks, which thankfully with the update, it is now a lot easier to do so. But yeah, like I just think the Somniel is a lot more concise. It's a lot quicker to navigate around. You have the menu that is almost instantaneous, with one very key exception, which is the arena and the ring chamber, which unfortunately is the one that you generally go to the most. But like outside of that, it just feels a lot more streamlined to me. And so I personally like the Somnium a lot more.
Okay, I have one massive complaint about the Somniel, and I think Oblivion may agree with me on this, because he played Monster Hunter World.
Okay.
Now, my biggest issue is that the hub is way too separated. Like, all the different activities are all over the place. You got to run back and forth a little too much. You got to collect all the shinies on the floor, which are always scattered in really bad places. So if you remember in Monster Hunter World, the first hub world, Astera, was actually pretty divided like that.
Trash. Yeah, it was super trash.
Yeah. And then in Iceborne, they put everything in one spot, and it was really accessible and really convenient. So that is my biggest complaint with the Somniel, is just running around aimlessly a lot of the time.
Yeah, I kind of agree. For me, I guess, like, when it came to the Somniel, like, the first, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 maps, I was doing everything, right? Because I was like, oh, it's all new, it's fun. And then, like, immediately I was just like, dude, I hate these, like, exercises. I'm not doing any of them. And then, like, so pretty much all I did was, like, the cafeteria, the arena, and then I'd go hang out with the dogs, right? And that was literally all I did.
Oh, yes.
I didn't do Sami. I didn't do any of that stuff after, like, 5 maps, because I just felt like I didn't need to. So I'm going to be interested to see how much, because now I'm playing maddening, I'm going to be interested to see how much more I have to do. I could see that being annoying, because I really don't like any of the, like, mini games. I mean, like, the dragon one's, like, not bad, but it's just, like, a couple more minutes I have to waste between every map that I probably wouldn't want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't like that either. It kind of takes you out of the immersion a little bit when you're, like, old school FE, you would just marathon all the chapters, whereas here you do a chapter, and then you go back to the hub, and then you spend who knows how long in there, then you go back to the game. It felt tedious, especially when you start doing the skirmishes and the paralogs, and you just keep going back and forth nonstop. It gets a little annoying.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like because the arena, right, is like free experience, so it's kind of hard to pass up on the arena. But it was kind of annoying when I was like doing a paralog, and I'm like, okay, I have to go back to the arena. Okay, now I'm doing paralog. Okay, I go back to the arena. You know what I mean? Like I kind of just wanted to like just keep doing some of them, and especially when later on when the story gets a little bit more intense, right? I wanted to just keep doing the story. I didn't really care about Somniel, but I kind of felt like I had to go back.
And I think that comes back to like, you know, we don't know this was our first one. We didn't know what to expect. So it felt that we needed to get like every advantage.
Right.
I will say, like, I guess because I didn't play that many paralogs, I personally didn't feel that on my run. Again, I only did, I think, like 4 paralogs though. So my experience is probably different.
Really?
Yeah. I think I only did a Lucina, Ike, and Byleth's paralog in addition to the other paralog with like and Anna and Jean, of course, but
okay. Right.
I didn't do much paralogs.
I did. I tried.
So I might have been under leveled, but you know that's part of the fun.
I did all of them.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, because I just wanted to like I don't know. I wanted to see everything, I guess. But speaking of difficulty though, like how did you find the difficulty, both of you? Because like for me, the hard difficulty wasn't like super hard, but I'd say there are some maps that were annoying, right? Like also I found like the difficulty to be a little bit weird because like the story maps would be pretty like whatever, but then like sometimes the paralogs were like brutal. Like they were like super brutal maps.
Yeah,
like
if you try to on Maddening at least, I don't know if this applies to hard and normal, but if you try to do some of the paralogs as soon as they become available, it's a little bit rough. It's like you want to wait maybe like 2 or 3 story chapters first before diving into some of the paralogs.
Yeah, like I took a look at Lynn's paralog and I was like, no, I am not doing that. I'll do that later. And that later became never, unfortunately.
I will say on Maddening at least, you will be looking forward to doing the paralogs because it's just another source of experience that you can get. And experience is so tight on Maddening.
I think like for me, like some of the paralogs, like I don't want to like spoil any paralogs, but like there's some like I think the Leaf paralog was really annoying. Like that one kind of pissed me off.
It's actually easy. The only real hard thing about that one is getting the speed wing.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it was. That's exactly.
All you have to do is just use. All you got to do is just use the entrap staff on that guy, and then that's it.
See, yeah, before I like really, I don't know if I even had the entrap. I probably had it, but I didn't like really look at it. So like I was like doing some warp shenanigans. Like okay, gotta get the speed wing. I gotta like make sure I don't die to ballista. And I was just like, oh my god, that map annoyed the crap out of me. And then also the Erica one, not because of the treasure chest. Once again, like for me, it was never really I guess the map. It was like trying to get all the rewards on the map because I'm greedy. I think that's what annoyed me in some of the parallels.
I didn't have too much trouble with that one, but also in my defense, I was way over leveled when I did Erica's.
Okay. I tried to do them like immediately, right when they popped up. Yeah, maybe that was not. No.
I was trying to do that, but then when I did Lynn's, as soon as that one popped up, I was like, nope.
Just like me.
Yeah. Because, I mean, Lucina's is pretty easy, and that's the first one you get.
Yeah. Right.
But then, like, Lynn, the contrast between Lynn's and Lucina's is absurd.
Right. No, definitely. Yeah. Some of the skirmishes, too. Some of the skirmishes were ridiculous. I don't know what they were thinking with some of them.
I've heard a lot of people complain about the skirmishes, at least on Maddening, because they really feel unbeatable at certain points.
Yeah.
But...
Same on hard. Like, sometimes you would just get put in a map, and you'd be in the center of the map, and there'd be like 10 enemies on every side. And you're just like, okay, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to do here?
I'll say, though, it looks a lot scarier than it actually is. Because when you get in there, you'll look at the map, and then all these enemies, they've all got daggers. They've got like 37 speed and like 50 attack. And it's like, how am I supposed to do this? But then you jump in, and you actually... just end up doing it because there's no reinforcements on the skirmishes.
That's true.
And, right.
Like, you have Byleth's Dance, which lets you kill basically 4 units in one go. You have Sadal, and it basically just comes down to you have just enough leeway that you can KO enough enemies that you'll eventually get to a point where you can stabilize yourself on the map. And it doesn't feel that way when you're playing the game because there's so many reinforcements.
Right.
Yeah. I think the best way to think about it is that like it is definitely really difficult. Like, and like playing a lot of the story maps, I definitely feel that. But the game also gives you a lot of tools that you can use to deal with those situations. And as you like get better at using those tools, or like read online that, hey, this combo is pretty broken and I might as well try that, it becomes a lot more manageable and honestly really fun. And so that's, I think, where I personally lie on the conversation on difficulty. Now, I did play on hard. I didn't play on maddening, so I don't know how it is on maddening. But at least on hard, it was like the tools that they gave you were definitely up to the challenge and definitely provided a lot of fun in being able to use those to do well.
I want to know what you guys thought of the new mechanics, because there's lots of new mechanics, right? We'll save Emblem Rings for a little bit, but how did you feel about like break and chain attacks in particular?
Okay, so chain attacks are the greatest new mechanic ever in a Fire Emblem game. They're just so amazing.
Yeah, well, maybe in the enemy's hands, not so much in mine. I personally never really found much value from chain attacks. I would randomly get some. Okay, well, I know you didn't want to talk about Emblem Rings, but Lucina's Ring does have that skill that lets you do a chain attack if you're in range.
Right.
So, like, I think that was the main way I was doing chain attacks. I never really bothered too much with that. The break mechanic, though, I thought was really cool, and it was implemented in a pretty good way. Because there's a whole bunch of skills that play off of break. So that worked out pretty well for me. But chain attacks, it feels more like an enemy thing. Like they're going to use it to bully you as opposed to the other way around.
I actually feel it's reverse. I thought like break was more of a thing that the enemy does than like chain attacks. Because like, at least in my experience, chain attacks were very useful for one, being able to take on a lot of the either tanky units or the bosses. Like a common strategy I often do is just like obviously attack with the backup units first, and then you can like stack up a lot of damage based off of those chain attacks to be able to take off the bosses. And a lot of maps I found that, you know, I'd often miss kills by like 1 HP or something like that, and it's actually so annoying. But like with careful positioning, chain attacks are able to really help with those clears. And I just really love the implementation that regular chain attacks have in rewarding positioning, because when you get them off, it just feels super satisfying. And so I really like their addition as a mechanic. Obviously, once we get like Dual Assist Plus, things become a lot more easier. But that doesn't like, I don't think that like discludes the reward that positioning can have on chain attacks. And yeah, I just really like that mechanic.
It's really interesting to see like everyone's different takes. I've like looking around, obviously watching people's videos and stuff, and everyone has like a different opinion on different stuff, which I think is a good thing. Right? It just shows you how much.
Yeah, no, that's a very good sign that the game is balanced well.
Right, exactly. Right.
I was just gonna say, like, everyone's opinions on the Emblem Rings, like which ones are the best,
exactly,
etc. I have seen like everyone has a different opinion on that. So I think that's amazing game design that they could take something and balance it to such a good point where it's not really as clean cut which one is the best or anything like that, depending on who's the one playing.
I think the one thing everyone is like in agreement on is like that the Leaf Ring sucks. Like I haven't seen anyone try to defend that one.
Here's a hot take though. I don't think it's the worst ring. I think.
Oh really? I think it's the worst ring for sure.
It has enough uses. Like it gives you +5 build, which is pretty good.
That's true. Yeah,
that's true.
I found at the very least I found more use for Leaf's ring than Roy's.
I actually liked Roy's a lot. But it's like mostly like for like weird strategies. Like I found like ways to abuse the miracle essentially was what I was using it for.
Yeah.
Like, is there some like really stupid nonsense you can do there with like the Micaiah ring, and then you get like hold that from Roy, and then she just heals herself.
You can live forever.
It was really fun. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Speaking of emblem rings, we might as well just jump right into that. What is your favorite emblem ring? Out of all the emblem rings, which one was your favorite?
Oh, Lynn's.
Oh yes, Lynn is definitely one.
Lynn was such a hard carry on maddening. I can't even stress that enough.
Lynn's ridiculous.
I feel like it's almost like without Lynn's ring, you're at the mercy of the enemies because Speed Taker is such a huge game saver.
It's so good.
Maddening.
Yes,
it's so good. Oh my gosh, Speed Taker's so good.
And then she has the best attack too. I think Astra Storm is the best attack.
I don't know if it's I don't know if that's the best for me, but it's very useful. Like I used it every single map every time I could, so it was obviously very good. For me, the doubles were just like stupid. Like the fact that they can die and then you can respawn them again was just like ridiculous to me. Like you could just like kind of like hold off part of the army by yourself with Lynn, which was just like so over the top.
Yeah, and then they copy her stats too. So if you have a lot of speed and evade, so will the doubles.
Right, exactly.
It's pretty nuts.
Yeah. Like Lynn was definitely a top tier or like one of my favorites to use as well. Of course, I am sort of biased, so I also really like the Lucina ring, mainly because of the chain attack mechanic and like everything else. I also really like Bonded Shield a lot, being able to basically have like risk-free baiting the enemy. I think that was really useful. But yeah, I think those two, along with I'd say probably Byleths were my favorite. Like giving Byleth to like any infantry mage was just so good because like you can extend the magic range, and of course we can't forget about the 4 dance that just makes it super fun to play with. And so those 3 were my favorites for sure.
I think the Lucina ring I loved because of Lapis. Like I used Lapis, she was a hero, so she has Brave Assist, right? And then with the movement, like she was just doing 20% of every unit's like max HP with chain attacks. It was stupid. It was so good. And then she also had Bond and Shield. So I could like put her in the front line and she would just protect my like other units.
Right.
Yeah, that's where chain attack can really start to play in your favor when you have dual assist on these hero units that can do the double brave attack.
Yeah,
it's
but
really good.
The SP economy is so bad in maddening.
It really is.
It's bad hardening. It's bad hard too. Yeah, it's really bad.
You're never gonna inherit dual assist over something like Speed Taker or Cancer or like all the other crazy skills that you get later.
It was I mean I used the first version. I never got to the second version really just because SP is so hard to get. Like getting 2000 SP is just ridiculous, right? 1000 I could do. Like that was like, okay, this is one of my big skills I'm picking up.
What is the % chance of dual assist 1?
I believe it is 35.
Yeah, it's 35%.
35. Okay, yeah. The second one is 70%.
Right.
So that's definitely a little better.
It's way better. But for me, my favorite emblem ring for sure was Byleth. I love the Byleth ring so much. And the reason for that was mostly the dance with 4 people is amazing and stupid. Like you can just make so many cool strategies with that. But the real reason I think was because of Citrine. And what I love about Citrine was that she has stupidly high magic growths, like ridiculously high. Your speed's not the best, right? But it doesn't really matter because the way I used her was with Byleth, and you get the Thrysis staff. I don't remember what it's called. The staff that increases your range, right? So I was using that and Thoron. And so I had 6 range, and I was just nuking things from like 6 spaces like it was nothing. Just like shooting down things across from the map. It felt so good. It let me get rid of the dragons really easily. I could pretty much like 1 or 2 shot every dragon. And then also like, archers and mages and like annoying staff units. So it just made her like extremely useful.
Yeah. The Byleth's ring I think might be the most versatile because there's so many different things he can do. I had him on Chloe where my Chloe was just a flyer, so she could get easier access to the dance with the most mobility.
Okay.
To me, that was the biggest selling point to his ring was the dance effect. And then
it's very strong,
as soon as you use the dance, like right after that, you can just go into offense with Lewin, which is a really strong weapon, and Sword of the Creator. So, like, his weapon selection is by far the craziest.
It's so good. It's so good.
It's so good.
I think, like, some other rings I really liked. I like the Ike ring. I know that probably in Madden it won't work as well, but the Ike ring with Louis in particular, my Louis, I think my Louis had 80 HP by the end of the game and 50 defense.
Really?
Yeah, wow. 80 HP, 50 defense. And so I just like put the Ike ring on him and he just didn't take damage. Mage just could hit him, but he took like half damage. So he was taking like maybe 20, right? And then he'd one-shot them back with a spear. So like for, at least in hard, like it just was really, really strong.
Okay, so on Maddening, Ike's ring is actually really strong. It's just that it's not for the reasons a lot of people might think. So Great Ether is actually terrible in Maddening.
No, it's not great and hard either. It's kind of
not only is it just kind of wonky because you have to charge it up first before using it, but on Maddening, it feels like every enemy after a certain point just starts having smash weapons.
Yep.
So if they hit you with a smash weapon, they push you away, and then it messes with your range. So you only hit like 1 or 2 guys.
Yeah, no, it's not great.
It starts to suck pretty bad. But Ike's ring, he has 2 of the best weapons in the game, which are Ragnall and Irvon.
Very good.
And basically all I'll do, I actually gave Ike's ring to Kagetsu after a certain point, because Kagetsu, I had him at so much speed that he could just double whatever, even if he had a high weight weapon like Irvon or Ragnall. So once you get to that point where you can double enemies with Ragnall, and then you're taking a little bit of damage, so you get into Wrath, you get to like 30% crit with that.
Right.
And then you've engraved your weapons as well, like the Killing Edge, you give that an engravement. I had like 100% chance to crit on a lot of interactions. So yeah, Ike's ring, maybe not at first, but like towards the very tail end of the game, Ike's ring starts to really look good.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that one.
I will say, like, a ring that I didn't realize was super fun and super useful until like the later half of my run was definitely Micaiah's ring. Mainly like the amount of utility that provides with like the rescue, all the staffs, the extended staff range and whatnot. And that's not even counting the full map heal, which just comes in clutch in so many situations. Like there's just so much things you can do with the extended AoE staff effect that she has. And yeah, I've personally had a lot of fun with that as well.
Oh yeah, it's so good. Like the second I found out that you could target like up to like 4 or 5 people with your staff at once, I was just like, wait, what? What? This ring just completely changed my mind.
Yeah, the AoE staffs are really, really strong.
Really, it's so good.
And then Great Sacrifice too. Like early game, Great Sacrifice gives you so much experience in SP.
Yeah,
like
it does.
Every time you use it.
Does.
So I made it a point to just like spam that every map, like at the absolute best moment where I could just heal the whole party.
Right.
So I would get as much XP and SP as I could.
Yeah, I had it on Yunaka for a little while, and that was the one unit who didn't have SP problems because of that. Like she was the only one where I could actually inherit skills too. I was like, cool. But like, man, it's such a good stat. The other ring that I really enjoyed was Sigurd. Sigurd was fun. I had fun with Sigurd, but I felt like it kind of fell off. I don't know. Like he didn't really have the killing power. Maybe it's because I had it on Alfred. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's exactly the problem with Sigurd. He like mobility is so strong. Just he gives you +1 movement, and then he gives you cancer.
Right.
And then when you engage with him, he gives you like +50 movement. It's so dumb.
It's really fun.
I gave it to Ivy actually.
Okay.
Oh,
it might seem like a weird combo there, but
I mean,
having Ivy dominate the map with like so much movement, and then having Kanto as well, so you can run in and hit a boss with Thoron, and then Kanto away, get danced, and then come back in.
Right.
And then you have Ivy's personal skill to give you like +20 hit.
Right.
That was a really easy way to cheese some of the later maps with Sigurd and Ivy.
The ring I wanted to talk about, I remember now, is Corrin. So Corrin at first I was kind of underwhelmed, but Corrin actually is like phenomenally good on the right units. And so like obviously everyone I think has seen the Yunaka dodge thing, which is cool, right? It's a lot of fun. But for me, the cool thing was either Alear or Ivy. Alear just being able to choose whatever terrain you needed whenever was so good. I could just shut off parts of the map with the ice, right? And then kind of like just slow them down. Like even though they could break through, it would slow them down for a turn and I could do whatever. And then the other thing was with Ivy, there's that skill she has. It's not Dragonic Heck, it's the other one. Where when you attack the person, like it lowers the movement of the allies within one space of them. So you could like run up.
Oh yeah, Draconic Aura or something like that.
I can't remember what it's called.
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Or no, it's like menacing aura or something.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it limits them to one movement after they attack.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good because you can like use a 3-range tome like Thunder, right? And it just like screws them from far away, and you're like, okay, I'm out of here. Like put Canter on her, and it's stupid. It's so good.
Oh yeah, actually, I didn't think about that. Running Canter with that effect, so you could
it's
lock
really
people down and then get away.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that gravity like also affects like adjacent foes as well, right? So you could just like lock down entire legions of enemies and able to manage that really good. And yeah, like Corrin was also super fun and amazing as well.
All right, yeah, I probably have the hottest take on the Corrin ring.
Okay.
Right. I actually didn't find too much use for her. She felt like a really niche kind of thing for me, where it was only once in a while where I was like, oh, I can lock down this thief's movement so I can get rid of him before he runs away, or like, oh, there's a boss here. I'm gonna go ahead and just lock his movement down so I can gang up on him with the right unit and level them up instead. But like a lot of people say she's the best boss killing ring because of all the stuff she does, like the debuff and then the lock in place.
But I don't know about that. But yeah.
I never really found that to be necessary. Even on Maddening, the bosses felt like chumps to me. They just go down so quick.
That's actually an interesting topic because the bosses have like the multiple HP bars in this game.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not just like one, like, you know, in FE7, the dragon had multiple HP bars, right? He had like 1,000,000 HP, which was cool. But in this game, like everybody has it. Even someone like in the late game, even the normal mobs have extra HP bars. So what did you guys think of that?
I mean,
it's fine.
It's fine. Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't think I really have strong feelings about it either way. I think it does work to, you know, help with the, I guess, the map difficulty and the challenge of being able to take them down. I think that combined with oftentimes having like multiple bosses on a map really does make it so that it's not like you just surround this one boss and like get in your Rutger or something to hopefully take him out. So yeah, overall, like I think it does well in that design aspect in terms of the game.
I didn't have any issues with it. It does get a little annoying when the enemies have the Roy ring, though.
Yes.
And then they have holdout and like 5 HP bars. That was a little much.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I didn't mind the bosses having multiple HP.
I think the thing that bothered me the most wasn't the bosses having it. It was like in the paralogs, right? There were like mobs that had gold on them. They'd have like 2,000 gold, and they'd have multiple HP bars. And that drove me nuts.
Yeah.
That was like number one thing that drove me nuts. Because I'd be like, okay, I'm going to go kill that guy because I need the money. Because I'm desperate for money, right? And then he would just have like multiple HP bars and just like waste my time. I'm like, oh my God. Like, why on them? You know, they're not threatening at all. They're like normal mobs. They just have extra HP just be annoying.
Yeah. I think the paralogs, a lot of the units or the NPCs on the paralogs that had multiple HP bars were based on a character from that game.
Oh.
So like... In particular, in Sigurd's paralog, at the bottom of the map, there's these 2 mages that have like one of them's got Thoron and he's got like triple health bars, and the other one has a fire tome.
That's what I was
got
thinking
like
of.
2 health bars. I'm pretty sure those are referenced to Ishtar and Arvis.
Oh, okay.
Like
that makes more sense then. That makes way more sense.
Yeah, and then I remember Micaiah's map had a thief next to her, and the thief is obviously supposed to be Soth.
Right.
Oh,
okay.
Right.
Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better about it, because that was pissing me off, to be honest.
Think about the story integration.
Once I noticed that, it was actually kind of fun to like try to figure out which all the units were referencing.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely have to go back then and look at that, because I definitely did not notice that the first time.
Oh yeah, me either. Okay, so we spoke about emblem rings. Now I want to know about characters, because this cast, as like Tacho was saying, and DTM, this cast is actually pretty fun. Like I went in with doomer take of like I did not think I was going to enjoy much of this cast. I'm gonna be honest. The art style just does not do it for me, so I was pretty low on this cast. But then I was actually surprised how much I end up liking the characters. They're very, very quirky though. Like they are ridiculously quirky. So like, who is your guys' favorite characters?
Okay, for me, I mean, Goldmary was at the top. Goldmary is so entertaining. I love Goldmary. Ivy was best waifu.
Ivy's
I like
pretty
Ivy.
good. Yeah.
I actually like Fogato a lot. I don't know if too many people like him, but to me, he felt like he was another Laszlo character where he's always trying to get a date, but for him, it actually works. He actually has. I mean, Fogato's actually got some games, so I mean, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, for me, like my top 3, number 1 is definitely Yunaka. I just love everything about her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love her like personality. I love her attitude. I really love her backstory too.
Same.
Like it's just so good, and I'm surprised there isn't fanfics about that yet.
Oh, are you sure? Because Yunaka's, to my knowledge, she's the most popular character in the game.
She might be. Yeah, she
might be. But like,
I'm fairly sure because they did a poll already.
Oh, did they?
These, like,
oh, did they?
Yeah, they did. At least in Japan, they did a poll, like a character popularity poll, and Yunaka was in first by a lot.
Oh wow!
Brave Yunaka next year.
You'll have to link that poll to us after this. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see that.
CYL 8. Okay. Let's go. But yeah, Yunaka is definitely like my favorite. Number 2 is actually Vale. I really liked Vale a lot, and I also really liked Alear a lot as well. I think the character arc for them is actually done really well, and yeah, having to mind this cast of unhinged people definitely also got some bright spots for me. But yeah, I also like, it's really hard because when I was ranking them, like I just liked so many of the characters. Like I haven't even mentioned like Ivy, Diamond, Gold Mary. They're just so much fun, and you can tell like they're very endearing. They have a lot of heart, and it's overall very, very enjoyable.
That's actually like a good point though. I didn't, because I think Alear was like the character I was most down on going into this game, and just finding out that they are like the most normal person amongst this cast was like the funniest thing. Yeah. Like everybody else is crazy as hell.
You look at Alear's design,
right?
Like, it's a prime example of don't judge a book by its cover.
100%.
I mean, she's got the double colored hair, she's got the 2 different eyes,
right?
And then you just get to know her a little, or him, and they're a completely normal person. Right. There's nothing wrong with them, or they don't have any personality quirks. They just act pretty normal, I would say. And then everybody else is the complete opposite.
Yeah, completely. Like some of the supports are just ridiculous. I was actually laughing throughout some of them, which was great.
What is your favorite support?
Oh, that's a hard one.
Oh,
there's one where Tamara and Diamant like meet up, and Tamara tries to make Diamant sing, and it's one of the most ridiculous supports I've ever seen. Like it was just so over the top and ridiculous. I was like, what is going on here? Like I didn't even know if to laugh or to just like facepalm. It was like so over the top.
Yeah. And like it's not even just to Diamond. She tries to do it with like Ivy as well, and like it's just so hilarious as well. And you can actually tell that the voice actor like knows how to sing, but is trying to make it awkward. At least in Ivy, but like it's just so funny. And as in terms of like favorite supports, there's like 2 paths I can take. There are the more like heartfelt ones and the more hilarious ones. We can probably talk about like the more heartfelt ones later. But for funny, I definitely put Etier and Gold Mary's support conversation. Yes.
I was gonna bring that up. That's my favorite one.
It's just so hilarious. It's like Mean Girls energy, like all over the place.
Yeah.
Like
I'm have to look that up.
Wait, have you seen their supports, Oblivion?
No. So what happened with me was I was actually wanting to use Gold Mary really bad, but by the time I got her, I already had Lapis like level like 8 or something in Hero. I was like, I don't really need 2 heroes. Yeah. So I think I'm gonna use her on my Maddening playthrough because I think she's better on Maddening than she is on hard.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yes. So I think that's where I'm gonna use her. But I am looking forward to getting to see like her supports and actually getting to try her out.
Here's a little tip for you on Maddening. Basically, any new unit you recruit is probably better than whatever you were using. Like you just, I replaced so many units on Maddening. Is like, oh, I'm using this guy, but then, Citrine, I was using her, and then, like later on down the road, I got Hortensia and Ivy, and it's like, wow, these mages are just way better than Citrine. So I had to bench Citrine, but I mean, it's like even Linden, you get him way later, but to me he felt like he could still compete kind of towards the end of the game.
Okay, interesting.
Because dude, Magic is so OP.
It really
maddening.
is.
Like all the enemies, they got like 42 defense and then like 1 res. It's pretty funny.
Same in Heart. I don't know why, but they're like, it felt like every unit was an armored unit in Heart. I was just like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah,
like,
basically.
Pretty much.
I will say, like, on Linden, I really loved it when he tried to invent popcorn in that one support conversation.
What?
Oh, wait, what?
Yeah, in his support with, oh my goodness, I forget who. Maybe it's one of the supports. Like, he tried to, like, zap a corn to make it explode, to make it a culinary treat. And yeah, he's trying to invent popcorn. Like, that's the cast we have, and it's amazing.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know which one that was. I think I might have missed that one.
Yeah, I have to look back at that, or just
I
go
pretty
to
much benched him
really
like the
quick.
second I got him. I was just like, okay, old
Same,
man healer
actually.
on the bench.
I was a little disappointed. Okay, so the regular characters, they have their own supports, right? They have like full-on conversations.
Right.
I was a little disappointed that the bond rings, or the emblem rings rather,
Right.
Their supports for the most part, it was only 1 line. I felt like they could have did a little bit more with that.
Yeah,
Right.
I kind of understand why though, because right, like it's like how many rings are there?
It's
12?
a lot.
12 plus.
Yeah, it's a lot.
12
And then for
times
every
like however characters they have. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been too much, but
There were some good ones though. There was a few Bond conversations, especially with Sigurd. There were some really heartfelt Sigurd conversations I really liked. But
yeah, I feel like Sigurd got a lot of spotlight in this game. Like they're
Exactly.
almost hinting.
Yeah.
They're making it so obvious that FP4, there's gonna be a remake coming.
Absolutely. They were just like, hey, this Sigurd guy's here. He's really cool.
Yeah. Doesn't help like the fandom is constantly making memes about like the game and Sigurd and all of that. So we'll see. I will say, like, I do agree. I wish the Bond rings conversations were a bit longer. I do understand why, they are fairly short, though. That being said, I do think that for many of the rings, they did manage to be very interesting despite the short length. One thing in particular, I really liked how Lucina's Bond ring conversation with Yunaka referenced her support with Owain and how Falchion was originally named Pointy Demon Spaker by her in like Awakening.
Yeah, they were pretty on point with the references.
Yes, the references were great. I loved it. Like I can't even imagine how good this would have been if it came out on the actual anniversary. Like it would have been like the best anniversary gift ever. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
So the other thing I want to talk about is what teams did you use to beat the game? Now, obviously there are a few characters we can't talk about, so let's not kind of avoid them. But other than that, who did you use?
Okay. So like by the end of the game, my crew was basically Alear, Saline, Fram, Ivy, Diamant, Tamara, the dancer, of course, Seedal, Yunaka, of course, Hortensia, and I think that's about it for the ones I can say. Like,
okay.
And Hortensia's retainers, Rosado and Goldmary. Basically, I found that, like Tacho, I ended up replacing a lot of the past units with a lot of the newer ones. Obviously, I tried to keep a lot of the royals, besides Alfred, because he wasn't really that good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Poor Alfred. But yeah, like by the end, like I'd say like around chapter 20, I basically had a core set of units that I constantly use over and over again, despite getting like more units afterwards. And so, yeah, that's probably where I ended up.
Okay, so for me, I felt like every time I recruited new people, they were better than whatever I was using at the time. So like I said earlier, I had been using Citrine when I got her, and then later on you get Ivy, who can fly and do magic pretty much just better.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I got to use Ivy now. And then later I got Hortensia, so it's like, okay, now I got to use her. So units came and went for me a lot on maddening. I didn't really get used to anybody until all the way at the end when I had everybody recruited already. That's when my team really started to flesh itself out. I'll say Kagetsu was a pretty huge standout. Chloe, I think Chloe might have a little bit of a discussion for being the best in the game, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think
really?
she might be the only unit that you get early that still is strong all the way at the end. Because it feels like everyone else was either underpowered or I was using them because I had invested in them quite a lot and it was a waste to bench them at that point. Like Diamant, for example, Diamant I thought was really good at the start, like when you get him. And then a couple chapters in, like once you start getting these better units, it started feeling a little bit bad. Like, wait a second, why am I using Diamant when I just recruited this guy who has better stats in like everything, like Gold Mary, for example. She's just better overall. She has a better unique skill. Her unique is better. They have the same class virtually, so there were a couple of units that I just used for the sake of I had been using them for a lot in the early game, so I just kept them around. And Saline and Diamant were the two for me that I probably should have benched, but I didn't.
Okay.
I thought it would be like Louis that would be the one that people kept throughout the entire game, because I've seen a lot of discussion on Louis.
Oh no, dude, he sucks. He's like trash in maddening. He's
really?
not even usable. Yeah, I mean,
man.
he's okay. You need him. Like in maddening, the two units you just need are Vander and Louis for the first couple of chapters, and then if you don't ditch them by like chapter 8, you're in trouble. Because they will get doubled by everything and they'll get killed by everything.
Interesting. Like, I've seen people do maddening runs, and they use Louis, like, throughout the entire thing. Maybe, I don't know. That's really interesting, though.
That is interesting.
To hear.
Do you think, Tacho, the reason why you replaced units so much was because of the fixed growth rate for characters? Like, did you notice that bothering you at all?
Maybe. I can't really say for sure, but I don't think level ups necessarily had too much of an impact. It was more so just the units that you recruit have such high stats on maddening compared to what you already have that it's like it's almost insurmountable for the older units to keep up, even if you fed them a lot of experience.
Right. That's interesting. I'm gonna have to see when I play through like how I feel about that, but I have seen people saying that, so it's definitely like not a uncommon opinion. So for me, I should have ditched characters way more than I did. I did not ditch characters barely at all. That was kind of the problem. That's why I want to play it again, because I want to experience some more of the later game characters. I had like Alear. I used Alfred throughout the entire game. Oh my god, that was a mistake. Oh jeez.
Yeah.
That unit. He was like the biggest disappointment.
He was hanging in there, I was using him too for a bit, and he was kind of hanging in there.
Right.
It's not like he was necessarily awful, but he wasn't really a standout either. He was just kind of there.
Yeah.
I mean, I ditched him.
I think I ditched him by like chapter 7 or something. Like, he was just not it when I was playing on hard.
I felt like he was like bait, where like he was good enough where I was like, I put so much work into him, I don't want to leave him behind. But at the same time, he wasn't good enough where like he was ever like being the unit that was putting in work. You know what I mean? Like he would always like, ugh.
Right.
Like, dang it, Alfred. Like if he would like die, like I'd have to rewind time, and it was always because of Alfred, like 90% of the time.
Yeah, no, they really play on your emotions in this game. It's like, because they know you're gonna get emotionally invested to some of the characters, so they want you to feel like you don't want to replace them, even though they're not as good as the later stuff.
The other character I felt like I should have ditched was Boucheron. Oh man, that unit, he falls off so hard, like so ridiculously hard.
Boucheron?
Wait,
I did. It was
Boucheron?
a mistake. It was a mistake. Oh man. It's because I wanted an axe unit. I wanted like a dedicated axe unit. And I was like, okay, Boucheron has a dedicated axe. Like, he'll be cool, right? Berserkers are going to be amazing. And it's just like, nope. he got dunked on. Like, oh my god. Like, I feel like I was making the game harder for myself by using some of these units. Like, for sure.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. Like, by the end of my run, it felt like every unit that I had was either a sword unit or a mage. Like that's literally all I was using. I had like so many sword masters or warriors, or not warriors, sword masters or heroes, and then Alear, and then everyone else was a mage.
Yep.
That's
definitely.
basically it.
Yeah.
For like the other units I used, Diamant was a standout for me. Diamant just carried my entire game. Like, he was so ridiculously good. I could literally just send him off by himself, and he could fight the whole army by himself. He was so good. Like, I don't know if I just got god growth for him or what. I also gave him a very good weapon, so maybe that was partially it.
Which ring did you give him?
Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but I had to switch rings. So I had Roy ring, and I had to switch. So I went to Ike ring, and then I went back to Roy later on. But I gave him Pair Up from Koran, and I gave him Resolve from Ike. And like that completely fixed his resistance problem. And Pair Up made it so that he couldn't get chain attacked. So he could just like sit there and just fight like everybody, and it was like nothing. And like Soul would just proc, he'd heal himself up, and he would just keep going. So like, especially when you get like Ragnell and Binding Blade. Oh man, those weapons are good. Like Binding Blade gives you 5 defense and res. Like, holy crap.
Yeah. I mean, that's true to how it was in FE6 though. The Binding Blade, or Sword of Seals as I knew it, that sword kicks ass. That's my favorite sword in the series.
I love it. It's so cool. Other than that, I used like Citrine and Louis. They were really good. I didn't use Hortensia. I know she's really good, but I hate her. So I just could not convince myself. I couldn't convince myself to use her. I hate her guts so much. Like, I wanted to like punch her in the face. So
yeah,
okay, we'll talk about it later, but I can't believe it's standing all this slander.
It's not exactly that I hate her. It's just the way that she acts is pretty easy to hate.
Yes.
She's like too much of a tryhard, I would say. Like, she's trying way too hard to be cute.
Yes.
And it's not working.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So that's pretty much who I used. I don't know who, like, it worked pretty well, but I definitely wanted to try other characters, because there was characters like Golmeri and Rosado who I really wanted to use, and I just didn't use them. Oh, Tamara. I used Tamara. And she started off really rough because of her bad build, but eventually she got really good because Sandstorm is broken. Her like skill where like she deals 150% of her defense as damage. When she crits for like 130. Like nothing lives. Everything just dies instantly. So I was like, okay, we're like stacking crit on you, and you're just gonna like blow things up. It was really fun.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say they think she's broken, but
it makes me question.
No, well, Sandstorm at least they think is broken.
Sandstorm's really good,
and it makes me question if they played Maddening or not, because
probably not. Yeah,
I found like no use for Tamara at all in Maddening. Her build is too bad. If you want to keep her in her class that has access to Sandstorm, you're missing out a lot, because her build is way too bad to wield lances, unless you give her like Leaf's Ring, I guess.
I had to invest into her build. I didn't use Leaf's Ring, but I had to give her build for a bit until like later on, where it was okay.
Yeah,
because it was definitely rough in the beginning. Like, she was just getting destroyed by everything.
Yeah, I mean, stat-wise, she was actually kind of good. It's just that she can't really wield her weapon, so I benched her.
Yeah, I mainly used her with Ike's ring, mainly because that was the ring, I guess.
Yeah, that's what she comes with.
Right,
yeah.
And so like I just kept using her, and like she worked all right. Maybe I did get like blessed growths or whatnot, but like she wasn't good, but she wasn't like terrible or anything. Her job was basically go up, like do great ether, and then just like bait all the enemies, and that's basically how I mainly used her in my run.
So the final thing I really want to talk about before we jump into the spoiler section of the discussion is there things you did not like? Because there is one thing I think everyone can universally agree that is crap in this game, and that is that the engage option is above the attack option. That drove me insane. I was getting so annoyed with that. I don't know why they chose to do that.
Oh, that was never an issue for me.
Oh, really? Okay.
When you would attack the enemies, you could actually press the plus button, and then you'll automatically engage.
Right.
So you don't even need to do that.
Well, see, my problem was that I would accidentally...
It's a different story, though.
I didn't want to engage.
It's a different story. If you're trying to do the engage attacks, though, like the special moves, then you do have to engage in the menu.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like I would just try to do a normal attack, and then the engage option would pop up, and I'd like, no, I just want to I just want to throw a javelin. Like, please stop trying to make me engage. Like, I don't need to engage right now.
Yeah, like there's some like quality of life improvements that I think could definitely be warranted. Some of them were solved in the updates, like the now recreational activities that make support a lot easier. But yeah, that is definitely a huge annoyance. In terms of other things that I don't like about Engage, I don't know, like I guess in a way, the fact that like so many of the characters you get throughout the story like immediately outclasses the characters you invested to does sting. I understand why they do it from a gameplay design perspective, because it does make it easier to design like intricately designed maps that won't just get like completely thrown apart by your one super well invested unit, right? But yeah. Also, I don't know why, but apparently I swear, I keep getting misses and getting attacked by critical hits way more in this game than like previous other games. Like,
Yep.
I know it's the same RN system as Fates and Echoes, so maybe it's just like lower rates overall, but like that is just so annoying. Like, it's RNG, like me complaining about RNG from a Heroes player. So who knows what I think, but it's just so annoying.
Yeah, for me, that was happening a lot to Ivy, because she's got no luck. So it feels like
yeah.
all of the enemies that attack her, they at least have a little bit of crit chance, because her luck is so bad. So Ivy was getting killed by crits like left and right for me on my run. I didn't find that an issue, though. Like, for me, if I had to pick one thing I don't like about the game, it's the post-game, because there's nothing to do.
That's true, yeah. Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
There's like nothing at all. It's just Tempest Trial, and maybe if you want to do online PvP, which I haven't even done. I don't have online, so I can't do the relay trials. I can't do the Aether raids, whatever, like set up your defense or whatever it is, PvP mode that they have. The only thing for me to do post-game is skirmishes and Tempest Trial, and that's it.
I think the other thing that kind of bothered me was that I felt like some of the maps in the early game, they restrict the amount of units you can use, right? Like, it's like an 8-person map. And then by the time you get to the end game, they're like all 12-person maps. And I felt like it made it so I couldn't have characters that were up to date enough for me to use. Because I wanted to invest into more characters, but I didn't realize that skirmishes got so much more difficult that I couldn't like go back later on and level up those crappy characters, right? Because they couldn't kill anything in skirmishes. Like, it just wasn't going to happen. They were like level 5 base class, and these things are like level 15 advanced class. There's just no way. So I think that's the only other complaint I have. It's like a small one, but it is something.
Yeah, you basically, the team that you choose, you're set with that for life.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really have much leeway.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
There's no like Sacred Stones Tower where you can just go at any time and like, okay, let's level up some people.
You pick your set of units and that's it.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping the DLC would like have a training area or something, but it does not. It definitely does not. So I was like, okay, well.
Oh, not yet. I'm sure there's gonna be like SP and XP grinding maps later for DLC, in Awakening.
Exactly.
But not for now.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting that, but yeah, they're not there. They're definitely not there yet, at least. Okay, so now we are going to move on to the spoiler section. We are going to be spoilering everything. We're going to go through the whole, whatever we want to talk about the story, we're allowed to talk about. So if you do not want to get spoiled, this is your time to leave. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Have fun. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Let's talk about the story and what you thought about it, because for me, the story was pretty mid. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. There's not really anything that caught me by surprise. It felt like your stock standard run-of-the-mill. I mean, the easiest way to put it is just Fire Emblem the anime.
Yeah.
Like, if you've watched any shonen anime in the past, 5 years, this is basically it.
What I will say, though, is that personally, I do agree it's not, the greatest story out there, but I do still think that the story is pretty good. And specifically, mainly because of the emotional core and the arcs of Alear and Vale and the themes behind it. Those two character arcs were, I think, really well done. And the themes around family and bloodline, I also think were very well done as well. And I guess we can get into more specifics later, but I really liked how they handled like those themes. And because like the journey, one of the reasons why I really liked Alear as a character is like, and I used a female Alear, so I mainly like refer to Alear as she, but Alear basically like goes from, you know, wanting to run away from the corrupted to like trying to fulfill her role as the divine dragon, finding out obviously that she is the daughter of Somron, but like that doesn't matter. And you know, it's through like her journey and the bonds that she created that really allows her to fulfill that role and to be able to be a dragon that saves the world. And that also works and intertwines with Vale's character arc as well, which I also really love. And so like for me, like that emotional core really was super compelling and I really loved it.
I think for me, like the story was good enough where I was never disinterested, right? There was no point where I was like bored by the story.
Yeah.
But there was no point in the story where I was like, well, maybe like chapter 11. I was like, oh, that was really cool. Like that was a nice little twist. But other than that, like the whole time I was like predicting everything.
Yeah, the way they handled Chapter 11 is good from a story and gameplay perspective.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Like, it hits you.
Right.
It's like, oh, snap. Like, all of a sudden, I don't have any emblem rings. What am I going to do? I have to run away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not only that, but they're using my rings against me.
Right.
So,
Yes.
yeah, like, you feel that one.
I definitely think that was like part of the best part of the story, probably.
Yeah.
This is like just a random thought that I had, but I feel like if a Fire Emblem game has a chapter that you remember very vividly, that's a sign that it was good.
Yes.
So like for Engage, I think a lot of people that's going to be chapter 10 and 11.
Mm-hmm.
From like Radiant Dawn for me, that was chapter 3 or what is it, like episode 3 or chapter 3 Endgame?
Part 3?
Where Oblivion, you know which one I'm talking about?
When he faces against Zelgius? Is that what you're talking about?
Wait,
there's
part
like
3
no,
Endgame?
Chapter 3 Endgame in Radiant Dawn for me.
Pre-Endgame.
That's like my that's my favorite chapter ever. Because of like all the shit that's going on. It's like 5 armies fighting each other.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
every 10 KOs you get a bit of story that's going on in the background. Like because the medallion is coming back into action. Right? So it's like the goal of the map isn't necessarily to win, it's to KO a certain amount of enemies. That was really cool for me.
No, it's a really cool map. It's I can talk about Radiant Dawn all day. And Path of Radiance actually, especially like that the chapter after Ike's after Grail dies and like that that chapter is really good too. I love that chapter.
Yeah.
But like for me, like I felt like the story was like very serviceable. It was good, but like I mean, there was no point where I was like ever surprised. Like even at the end, I was waiting the entire time. Like, hey. Okay, your mom gave you that ring in the beginning of the game. Obviously, that's gonna have some kind of big thing happen. Okay, cool. Right. Oh, you got You died and resurrected twice in the same chapter. I was kind of like, okay, sure, why not? Like I don't know. There were certain points where I was kind of like, it just didn't really do much for me. I don't think it was a bad story by any means, but I just don't think it was like this isn't the story I'm gonna be thinking about for years, right? This isn't like Path of Radiance or Radiant Dawn or even Three Houses to an extent where I'm like thinking about those characters and like how crazy. The circumstances were, like what kind of choices they made.
And I understand like why, the story is like divisive for a reason. Personally, like it's not even like chapter 10 or 11 that was the high point of the story for me. That the high point was actually, I guess, in like the afterlife segment with Alear and Vale like discussing with each other. And I really loved, they finally realized that they're siblings. And Vale, is satisfied and just like basically wants to give up and fall asleep just due to the amount of suffering that she has endured. Like constantly trying to get approval of her father, not being seen as a defect, but just giving up. And Alear, like, obviously saying that, it doesn't matter where you come from, what you do shapes your future. And like the fact that that entire conversation and the fact that Alear gets revived as a corrupted was just super compelling to me. Sure, it's still like the standard like found family, I guess, sort of trope, but I'm always down for, that trope. And I thought it was like really well executed. So that was personally the high point for the story for me. I do agree that, it is predictable. Granted, I did get spoiled a bunch because people can't seem to have spoilers outside their gameplay sections. Like, hello, you're just showing a boss right there? Okay. But like predictability, a story being predictable doesn't mean that the story is necessarily bad, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a lot of stories that, you can pretty much plot out like from the beginning. But I think like the way the journey handled and the execution of that was really well done.
Yeah, for me, Vale didn't really hit that hard. I didn't care too much about her.
What?
But
She's amazing.
I mean, I didn't really care for Vale. I'm gonna be honest. Like,
she was okay.
I didn't care too much.
Okay.
However, as a unit, she is quite strong.
Yes.
I just kind of had to use her regardless. Like, I mean, I don't really like you, but you're good, so you can come along with us. The character for me that was a standout, I think. This might sound like classic shill Tacho, the simp Tacho looking for these thick mamas, right? But for me, Zephyia, I gotta say, Zephia's face turn at the end, I thought that was actually okay, because it always gets me when the thick mamas, we're about to finish them off, and then they have a face turn, and it's like, oh, but I just want to be a good mom. It's like, come on, don't do this now when I'm about to just like destroy you, and now you're making me feel guilty about it.
They really did wait till the last second to make you feel as guilty as possible. They were like, okay, she's dead on the ground. Time to give her a backstory.
Literally, she's on the ground bleeding to death. And it's like, okay, I'm going to help you now.
And it doesn't even stop there. Like in chapter 24, you even get more lore bits about Zephyia.
Yeah. You get, No, but Zephyia for me, that was the one character I thought that was like, okay, I'll give you a pass for that.
I think one of the major things that like really held me back was the villains, but it was like Sombron. Like that had me like the most like lame, boring villain ever. Like, oh my god, Sombron was just so one-dimensional. Like it was ridiculous to me.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have ever watched the anime My Hero Academia.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I haven't actually watched that.
The villains in this game just remind me of the villain Rengo from that so much, because it's like after every chapter they just show up and they're like holding meetings. It's like the villains are holding meetings. This is an anime. What are they doing? Why are you holding a meeting? And they do it so often.
Even villains can't escape meetings.
Oh man,
such a shame.
Oh. I completely agree with you, Tacho. Like.
But like the way that they do it is so over the top and ridiculous.
Yes.
It's like they have this meeting and they're giving you the exposition of their entire plan right there. It's like I mean I get it from a storytelling perspective. That's how the audience figures out like what they're trying to do. But it just feels like comedic to me.
Yes,
the way that they do it it's like a little bit too over the top.
I think the funniest thing to me was like the way they would just walk up to your team, right? Like there'd be like two of them and like an army on the other side, and they're like, "Hey, what's up? We're gonna kill you." I'm like, "Okay, like why are you just walking up and talking to me?" And then they're like, "Okay, we're walking away." And then you beat them, and they're like, "We're just gonna leave." And you just let them leave like 100 times. It's like, what? Like, why don't you kill them? Like they're literally just walking away from you with no army. Like just kill them.
Exactly. I mean how many lives? They're like cats. They have 9 lives.
They're like,
it's like you cannot get rid of them. They just every chapter you're fighting the Four Hounds.
Yes.
From like once you meet them all the way up to the end of the game, it's just them. They're the only villains.
Yep.
I mean, it runs into the same problem like Hubert had in like Three Houses, right? Like obviously, I think I heard this discussion previously, but like it's a fine line to walk between like just like one note bosses that you immediately finish off and move on because then they're not memorable, to like obviously bosses that you meet a lot of time, but then I can't fall here, I must retreat, or something like that. In terms of Sombron, I do definitely agree he is very one note. As like a character, as like a antagonist and what he represents to the theme, I think he like works decently in terms as a villain. Not the greatest still, but it's serviceable, I'd say.
He looked cool with his dragon form. I'll give him that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Sombron was basically just a poor man's Valadar.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. He's
like
bad Medius.
Valadar.
Okay, sure, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought Valadar and Grima were a better like combo villain than him.
I think so too. So when it came to Alear, I actually found myself surprised how much I liked Alear, considering everything. And I think the reason for that is because they were like the least Avatar character that we've gotten, right? Like we had Robin. Well, we had Mark technically, but Mark, is not really not much of a character.
I mean, if you want to believe the theory, then Mark is Morgan from Awakening.
From a Future
I
Past.
believe that.
I've never heard that. That's all. I need to hear about that. That's interesting.
Really?
No, I've never heard that.
Oh,
Okay, we need to talk about that
okay.
afterwards.
yeah.
Now.
Okay.
No, because I do actually think that's true.
Okay.
I think it's the truth.
So we have Robin, right? And Robin you can fully customize, and like they have a personality, but at the same time they're pretty neutral. Corrin, same thing. You can customize them. They're pretty neutral, but they're like also like a Mary Sue who's just good at everything. And then Byleth, who is like emotionless. There's a reason why they're emotionless, but they're still emotionless. And then you get Alear, and Alear actually is a character. Like the only thing you really get to do with Alear is pick a name and a gender, and that's it, right? So I think that actually worked out pretty well, and I'm hoping that's a trend to the point where like maybe we don't have Avatar characters next game. I know that's a controversial point because a lot of people love Avatar characters, but personally, I've never been a fan.
Yeah, me neither. Because for them to do avatars, they always try to cater to the player, and like they try to come up with they try to make a personality that they think is going to click with everyone. Right. Like for example, Robin, he was very studious. He was like, I don't want to say he was a nerd, but he was like into like nerdy stuff. Like he plays chess and he's a tactician and all that. And it feels like they tried not to give him too much of a personality. They made him like kind of neutral, but leaning towards one side.
Right.
And I don't know. For me, I would prefer it if they just make the avatar their own character completely away from what they think the players are, and just like make them somebody in their own right. And
yes.
Yeah.
Like for example, Alear, like you said, Alear I think is a good choice for the avatar because Alear is their own person. Yeah. They have nothing to do with you.
My favorite game is Awakening, but I also agree that I don't like avatars in concept. And like whenever I like engage with his characters, I don't, think of them as like, or like try to think of them as like my self-insert or anything like that. I try to think of them as like my own characters, but obviously that's not what the game developer does. And I sort of do wish that they do away with like avatars, like in Fire Emblem as well. Alear, I do agree. Like Alear's character is actually really, really good in this game, and especially the arc that they go through. And although, like, I will say, one thing that does annoy me is that because you can name Alear any name you want, you can't pronounce, like, their name. And so, like, there's a lot of awkward voice acting situations where, like, it just, obviously you can't just say their name, even though the text says their name.
Yeah.
It's a bit annoying. Like, I can give it a pass because, I know it's a hardware limitation or something like that. But I do think that either having like, if you choose like the canon name, they have it voiced, or just like going away from that, I think would be a good thing in Fire Emblem moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. That's what I'd want for sure.
Yeah. I would have preferred, honestly, they could have just made it so we don't name Alear and just have them say her name in the story. I think that would have been fine with me.
So much better. Oh my gosh. The other thing I don't like about Avatar characters, though, is that, like, I don't know why. I think other games like this, too, but Fire Emblem in particular, they really kiss ass when you have an Avatar character. Like, oh, my God. You show up, and you are the god of the game. They love you. You're amazing. Everyone just loves you all the time, even when you make mistakes. And I just don't like that. I'm not a person who loves to be complimented all the time. Like, it's just not how I am.
Dude, I was playing the game, and, like, I think it was the very first time you go to the Somniel. I went to the item shop to see what they had for sale, and Fram was standing right there. I was like, "Oh, you looked at me." I'm like, excuse me? I'm just trying to buy some stuff. I was just gonna say Fram and Clan really get on my nerves with that.
Me too. They were. Oh man.
I mean, like, it makes sense from a story perspective since, like, it's basically like Jesus coming to life, and Alear. I mean, Clan and Fram were like, I guess, the closest
apostles.
disciples or what? Yeah, the apostles. But I will say, like, I do think they handled the quote unquote Avatar warship like actually relatively well in this game compared to previous games. Mainly because Alear's just like freaked out by all these crazy characters.
Yeah, I'm glad they made a joke of it more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a fun time though, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
It gets a little awkward though when even the enemies are worshiping you.
Yes.
That seemed a little much.
Yeah, I would just love to have like that's what I like about Ike. I'm not gonna gush on Ike too much. I like that Ike was just a mercenary, right? He's not a lord, he's not a prince. Yeah. No one's kissing his ass, especially in the beginning, right? No one's kissing his ass. Sheenon's like, in fact, dumping on him.
Ike nearly got put in jail when he dissed Sanaki. You remember?
Yeah. That was great.
Like, Ike just tells it like it is. Right. That's why I love Ike.
Me too. Yeah, definitely. I just kind of want a character where like it's not an avatar. There's no self-insert. They get their own story that has character development, and people shit on them sometimes because they make bad choices, like in real life. You know what I mean? Like I would love to see that in a Fire Emblem. Hopefully that happens, but who knows?
I feel like it's not just Fire Emblem though. It's a lot of games that are doing this now.
Same with
it's just a thing now.
I don't think you've played Genshin Impact, Tacho, but Genshin Impact can do that a bit too, where it's like, oh, you're the main character, you're amazing, and it's just like, I don't.
It's like, Pokemon has been doing it too. Like Pokemon. I mean, it makes sense a little bit more because that's a kid's game,
right?
But in in Scarlet and Violet, it felt like they did it a little bit too much.
Okay. So anything else you guys want to talk about story-wise, or we're about to end this? So anything else you want to bring up story-wise, or anything else actually? Any subject you want to talk about?
They did a really good job with the game overall. Yes. I was pretty satisfied. Yes. I think I want to almost say this is my favorite Fire Emblem game since Awakening. So like, I mean, my favorite ever is Radiant Dawn and Path of Radiance.
Absolutely.
But like, since those games came out, I felt Awakening was really good because it saved the series, and then I feel like everything after Awakening was kind of like subpar, or I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but it didn't really live up to what I expect Fire Emblem to be, like a strategy game with a lot of balance and all that. And I've heard Conquest is like that, but I skipped Fates.
Oh,
so
okay.
I don't really know what to say about Conquest.
Right.
For me, like Echoes kind of fell flat a little. What else came out since then? Three Houses was... I'll say I did enjoy Three Houses when I played it the first time, but I had like no motivation to play all the routes and do like every little thing you could do in Three Houses. So this game for me, I thought was a pretty nice callback to the roots of the series, where at the end of the day, it is a strategy game, and I felt like I really had to use my thinking brain there for maddening mode. So I am glad also that I did maddening as my first run.
Yeah, I guess, my overall thoughts, like, I don't think anything will top Awakening as my favorite game, just because it's the game I first played, got me into the series in 2019. So, like, but like Engage honestly is like up there, either top 3 or top 2, depending on my mood. Maybe that'll change with time. But right now, that's probably where I'm currently feeling. Like, the gameplay is absolutely top notch. I really like the story. And like overall, I feel like was such a good experience. And honestly, I think I enjoyed this. I think I enjoyed this game like more than a majority of the routes in Three Houses, like both in gameplay and in story. And so maybe that'll change in the future, but like I have a lot of love with this game. It has a lot of heart. There's a lot of compelling moments. It's also a lot of fun. And so, yeah, that's where I guess I'd put it.
Okay. For me, I think I'm gonna be the doomer in the post, but I think I'd put it as my 5th favorite Fire Emblem, around there probably. I think the gameplay is probably the best gameplay though. Like if it was just gameplay, I think it'd be number one.
Yeah, the gameplay is very good in this.
Gameplay's excellent. I don't take anything away from that. But for me, I'm like such a character and narrative heavy person, right? Like the thing that makes Fire Emblem fun for me is taking characters I love and putting them in these dangerous situations where I really have to flex my brain to figure out how to make the most of them so they don't die, right? Like that combination is what makes Fire Emblem so endearing to me. And so for me, the characters I like the characters a lot, but like the story just felt kind of flat. So like I personally like Three Houses better because of the story. I think the gameplay is definitely better engaged though, like way better engaged. But especially the Blue Line story is just like for me like amazing. Like it's not Tellius amazing, but it's right below it.
Yeah.
What's your hot take, Tacho? I hear you coming in.
Yeah. I think I like the story in this more than Three Houses, and the reason why is because I think I've said this on my streams before, but the type of game I like is like I would prefer if a game was just all gameplay and story was an afterthought. So that's why I love Castlevania so much, is because it's just basically all gameplay, and the story comes in with little segments, but it's not anything that detracts from the gameplay in the way that I felt Three Houses, the story was intrusive on the gameplay, whereas in this, I think the story is just the right amount. It's like it gives it to you in chunks, but it doesn't make it feel like you're detracting from the gameplay any. It's just you can go from the first chapter all the way to the end, and it doesn't feel like at any point the story is harping over you or it's getting in the way of your enjoyment or anything like that. It's just there, and it does what it has to do, and it's perfectly fine.
Just a question. What route did you play in Three Houses?
Blackie, what is it called? Crimson Flower.
Okay,
I think is what it's called.
I won't say anything because all the Elgard fans will get mad at me. But I'm just saying, Blue Lions.
I'm looking at you, Oblivion.
I'm just saying, Blue Lions, man.
Okay.
It always pisses people off too, because the people that hate Edelgard, like they think it's blasphemous for a Crimson Flower to be the only route you play. So it's like, I actually liked it because it's completely different from anything else in the series.
It is, yeah.
Crimson Flower, because you don't even know if you're the good guys. Right. You're just like doing stuff.
Yeah.
And at a lot of points it feels questionable, but I don't think I would have enjoyed any of the other routes as much as Crimson Flower, though. Okay. So I was fine with it.
Hashtag Edelgard did nothing wrong. But anyways, like I actually do agree with you, Tacho. I played all 4 routes on Three Houses, and I did enjoy my time. But the thing I really love about Engage is story is that it knows that it has a more lighthearted tone, it's less serious, and it pretty much owns that. And it definitely benefits from that. And that's not to say it can't have emotionally compelling moments either. But like when it comes to Three Houses, because apparently everyone's comparing these two games. Like it's obviously very ambitious, but I feel like for most of the routes, it just failed to live up to that ambition. And unfortunately, I think the story suffered a lot because of that, especially, in my opinion, Verdant Wind and Silver Snow, which I personally did not enjoy at all in terms of their stories. And I consider myself like a very story-oriented person when it comes to these games. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I guess the sincerity of Engage is, I think, what really sells it.
I think for me, I'm the opposite, right? I'm a very story heavy. The only game I play that isn't story intensive is Monster Hunter, and I love that game, right? It's one of my favorite games.
Yeah.
But it's very much not a story game. You don't touch the story ever.
Right.
The story has there is no story in Monster Hunter. You just go in.
Kill monster.
You're literally a caveman. You just go beat up big monster and go make shoes with his skin.
Right. Absolutely. I think I do agree though. Engage when it came to the story, it didn't take itself too seriously. It knew what it was doing, and it didn't try to pretend that it was something it was not. Which is good because I feel like Fates did the opposite, where Fates pretended to be a very intense political struggle story, and then it just was anime waifus the game. I know Fates fans will get mad, but that's the truth. So I'm glad that Engage didn't go that route for sure.
Yeah, sometimes simplicity is better.
Yes, definitely.
Like
absolutely.
3 Houses was a little too complicated
Yes.
for its own good.
Yeah, I agree. It was very, very ambitious, like too much so. Okay, I think with that, we're going to end the podcast here. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to DTM and Tacho for showing up. It was a really fun podcast.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, man, anytime you need me, I'm always available.
Absolutely.
Same.
We should do some more of these about some other stuff too. But yes, if you haven't yet, make sure to go check out their content over at Tacho and DTM's channel. They make amazing content, always fun. Tacho and DTM actually always have the content up super early too. I don't know how you guys get it up so quick. So make sure to go over and check out their channels and subscribe. Okay, this has been Oblivion. I'll catch you all later with more Fire Emblem Heroes.
Bye, everyone.
All right, peace out, guys.